First contact and deception. The massive Drachnid warship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant sunlight. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display of the third planet. Earth, as its inhabitants called it, hung like a blue jewel against the void. Another primitive world for the collection, Vexthor said, his voice carrying the weight of countless conquests. The bridge crew, all members of the ancient Drachnid species, continued their work in practiced efficiency. Their empire had subjugated thousands of worlds across 3 galactic arms. This would be no different. Science Officer Ziraval approached the command platform, her crystalline data tablet casting prismatic patterns across her iridescent scales. Supreme Commander, preliminary scans show some anomalies. Anomalies. Vexthor's head crest flared with interest. Their technological level appears consistent with early atomic age development. Primitive nuclear weapons, chemical rockets, basic satellite networks. But she paused, mandibles clicking in confusion. Their military deployment patterns are unusually sophisticated. And their electromagnetic emissions, there's something odd about them. Vexthor dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. Every species has its quirks, Science Officer. What matters is their inability to defend against our might. Prepare the standard conquest protocol. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of North America, in a facility that officially didn't exist, General Sarah Chen stood before a wall of holographic displays. Each showed a different aspect of Earth's true defense network: quantum shield generators disguised as weather satellites, antimatter weapon platforms hidden in plain sight as space debris, and fleets of advanced ships concealed within the Moon and Mars. They took the bait, she said, allowing herself a small smile. Just like the others. Colonel James Martinez, her second in command, studied the tactical overlay showing the positions of the Drachnid ships. They're following the exact patterns we extracted from their military databases. The Drachnids haven't changed their conquest protocols in 10,000 years. Arrogance, Chen replied. They've never needed to change, until now. She turned to face the gathered officers in the command center. Status of Operation Masquerade. All systems nominal, General, reported Dr. Maya Patel, Chief of Quantum Technologies. Our electromagnetic camouflage is perfect. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. As far as their scans can tell, we're just another primitive species on the verge of splitting the atom. In reality, humanity had achieved quantum supremacy centuries ago, but they had learned early on to hide their true capabilities. The first alien signals they intercepted had revealed a harsh truth. The galaxy was dominated by ancient empires that consumed younger civilizations, rather than announce themselves. Humans had chosen patience, deception, and careful preparation. What about the civilian population? Chen asked. Everyone's playing their part perfectly, Martins answered. Social media is flooded with fake conspiracy theories about UFOs. News channels are debating grainy footage of mysterious lights in the sky. And all our actual advanced tech is completely masked by quantum fields. A young lieutenant spoke up from his station. General, the Drachnid fleet is broadcasting their standard conquest ultimatum. It's being picked up by our primitive communication systems. Chen nodded. Right on schedule. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Masquerade. Let's show them exactly what they expect to see. A primitive species in panic. Across Earth's cities, carefully choreographed chaos erupted. Military vehicles from the 20th century rolled through streets. Air raid sirens wailed. Politicians made frightened speeches about unity in the face of alien invasion. It was a masterful performance, designed to convince the Drachnids that their conquest would be swift and simple. But beneath this facade of primitive fear, humanity's real military prepared for battle. Quantum-enhanced soldiers took their positions in hidden bases across the solar system. Battle networks ran final simulations using centuries of gathered intelligence about Drachnid tactics, and in shipyards hidden within dimensional pockets, humanity's true fleet waited. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the Drachnids to spring it. The silent preparation. Aboard the Drachnid flagship, Vexthor reviewed the data streams from Earth with growing satisfaction. The primitive species' response to their arrival was textbook. Panicked military mobilization, desperate diplomatic broadcasts, and chaos in their population centers. He had overseen 50 conquests, and they all followed the same pattern. "Launch the probe drones," he commanded. "Let's get a closer look at their defenses." As the crystalline drones descended through Earth's atmosphere, Dr. Maya Patel watched their progress from her quantum lab deep beneath the Himalayas. The alien devices were scanning everything exactly as expected, and they were seeing exactly what humanity wanted them to see. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said to her team as they monitored the quantum camouflage fields. "They're mapping our entire defensive network, but it's all theater." On her screens, the real-time simulation showed what the Drachnid sensors were detecting. Primitive radar installations, nuclear missile silos, and aircraft carriers, all carefully crafted illusions generated by quantum field manipulators. The true extent of human military technology was far beyond anything the Drachnids could imagine. While they relied on crystalline computing and plasma weapons, humanity had mastered quantum engineering, dark energy manipulation, and consciousness transfer. But perhaps their greatest advantage was psychological, the Drachnids' absolute certainty in their own superiority. In orbit, General Chen's command center received updates from stealth facilities across the solar system. The quantum shipyards in Jupiter's atmosphere were ready. The dark matter weapon platforms hidden in the asteroid belt were primed, and the consciousness-linked warrior units on Mars were eager for combat. "Team reports coming in," Martinez announced. "Quantum shield network is at 100% capacity, completely masked by our EM camouflage. The AI battle systems have finished their final analysis of Drachnid tactical databases. We know their playbook better than they do." Chen studied the tactical display, showing the positions of Earth's hidden defenses. "Status of the civilian evacuation." "Complete," Martinez replied. "All major population centers have been quietly transferred to our quantum shelters. The people still visible to their scans are all holographic projections." A junior officer spoke up from his station. "General, we're detecting energy buildups in the Drachnid fleet. They're preparing for their standard intimidation strike." "Right on schedule," Chen smiled. "They always target the same kind of military installation. Something big enough to frighten us, but not so devastating that we can't surrender and serve as slaves." Dr. Patel's voice came through the quantum comm. "General, I recommend letting them hit the Area 51 facility. We've prepared it specially for this moment. The quantum absorption fields will put on quite a show." In his flagship, Vexthor selected his target, a sprawling military base in a desert region. His tactical officers had identified it as a crucial research facility, a perfect demonstration of Drachnid power. "Prepare main batteries," he ordered. "Let's show these primitives the futility of resistance." What he couldn't know was that the base was empty, its apparent activity generated by quantum holograms. The real Area 51 had been relocated to a pocket dimension decades ago. The facility his ships were targeting was essentially a giant stage, set for the next act in humanity's deception. As the Drachnid weapons powered up, humanity's hidden forces tensed in anticipation. Years of preparation, decades of technological development, disguised as primitive stumbling, centuries of patient observation. It was all about to pay off. In the Quantum Command Center, General Chen gave final orders to her forces. "Remember, when they strike, we let them think they've won. Let them grow even more confident. Then, when the moment is right, we show them humanity's true face." The Drachnid fleet's energy weapons charge, their crystalline emitters glowing with plasma fire. They expected their attack to break humanity's will to resist. Instead, it would trigger the greatest military upset in galactic history. The Empire's miscalculation. The plasma beam that struck Area 51 was visible from orbit, a lance of destructive energy that should have vaporized everything within 10 kilometers. Vexthor watched with practiced satisfaction as the beam hit its target. But his satisfaction turned to confusion as the energy simply disappeared. "Report," he demanded, his head crest flaring with agitation. "Unknown, Supreme Commander," his weapons officer stammered. "The energy readings, they make no sense. The beam was absorbed, but there's no damage. No radiation signature. No thermal bloom. It's as if the energy simply ceased to exist." In the Quantum Command Center, General Chen watched the Drachnid's confusion with grim satisfaction. "Dr. Patel, how did your quantum absorption fields perform?" "Perfectly, General," the scientist replied. "The energy was captured and redirected to our storage arrays. We could power New York for a year with what they just gave us. Should we proceed with Phase 3? Chen nodded. "Begin the revelation. Let's introduce them to real human technology." Across the solar system, carefully hidden quantum generators activated. The holographic camouflage concealing humanity's true capabilities began to fade, not all at once, but in carefully calculated stages designed to maximize psychological impact. On the Drachnid flagship's sensors, impossible readings began to appear. What had seemed to be space debris resolved into advanced weapon platforms. Apparent asteroid clusters transformed into massive defense installations, and beneath the lunar surface, enormous hangar doors began to open. "Supreme Commander," the sensor officer's voice cracked with stress. "Multiple new contacts appearing throughout the system. Energy signatures are beyond anything in our database." Vexthor stared in disbelief as the tactical display transformed. Where moments ago he had seen a primitive world with basic orbital satellites, now his sensors showed a sophisticated defense network extending from Mercury to Jupiter. Impossible. This must be some kind of sensor malfunction. "No malfunction, Supreme Commander Vexthor." The voice that came through his ship's communication system was calm, professional, and spoke perfect Drachnid. On his command screen, General Chen's image appeared. "What you're seeing is humanity's true face. The primitive civilization you thought you found. That was a mask, worn for centuries while we studied your empire." The Drachnid leader's scales darkened with rage. "You dare deceive the Eternal Empire. You will burn for this insult." He turned to his weapons officer. "Full barrage. Target their orbital platforms." But even as he gave the order, new signatures appeared on his tactical display. Ships were emerging from quantum gates throughout the system. Vessels that combined technologies the Drachnids had thought impossible to merge. Dark energy drives, consciousness-linked weapon systems, and hulls made of materials that didn't appear on any known periodic table. "Your weapons are impressive," Chen continued, her voice still calm. "Or rather, they were impressive 1,000 years ago when you first developed them. While your empire stagnated, convinced of its own superiority, humanity never stopped advancing, never stopped preparing." To demonstrate her point, a human vessel suddenly appeared next to the Drachnid flagship, passing through its shields as if they didn't exist. The ship was smaller than a Drachnid cruiser, but radiated power that made the flagship's sensors scream in protest. "This is your only warning," Chen said. "The Eternal Empire's policy of conquering primitive worlds ends today. You have 1 hour to retreat from the Sol system. If you choose to fight." She paused, allowing a small smile. "Well, we've spent centuries preparing for that choice too." In the Quantum Command Center, Martinez looked up from his tactical display. "All units report ready, General. The Drachnid fleet is completely surrounded. Their weapons can't penetrate our quantum shields, while our dark energy projectors can bypass their defenses completely." Chen nodded. "Now we wait. Let them process what they're seeing. Let them understand just how completely they've miscalculated." Above Earth, the Drachnid fleet hung motionless, their confident advance transformed into stunned paralysis. For the first time in their empire's history, they faced not just defeat, but the possibility that they had never been as superior as they had believed. The next hour would determine not just the fate of this battle, but the future of galactic civilization itself. Pride before the fall. Supreme Commander Vexthor's decision took less than 15 minutes. Pride, the bedrock of Drachnid civilization, would not allow retreat. All ships, battle formation, he commanded. Show these deceptive primitives the true might of the Eternal Empire. In the Quantum Command Center, General Chen watched the Drachnid fleet's movements with a mixture of disappointment and resignation. They're deploying into their standard combat pattern, she noted, exactly as the simulations predicted. Should we commence full-spectrum engagement? Martins asked. Chen shook her head. No. Implement Operation Shattered Mirror. Let's make this a lesson they'll never forget. As the Drachnid fleet launched their attack, something unprecedented happened. Their carefully coordinated plasma barrage passed through the human ships as if they were holograms. Because they were. The real human fleet had quantum-shifted milliseconds before impact, leaving behind perfect light-energy duplicates. Impossible. Vexthor's scales rippled with shock as human vessels materialized within his fleet's formation, their positioning precise to the microscopic level. Before his ships could react, pulses of dark energy cascaded through his fleet's crystalline hulls. The results were devastating. Instead of destroying the ships, the dark energy pulses disrupted their crystalline structure at the quantum level. Weapons, shields, and propulsion systems simply stopped responding as the very lattices of their crystal tech reorganized themselves. Status report. Vexthor demanded. 70% of the fleet is non-responsive. His tactical officer reported, mandibles clicking in distress. Their crystal cores have been reformed somehow. The humans, they're not trying to destroy us. They're reprogramming our ships. Through the command channel, General Chen's voice carried a note of professional satisfaction. Your crystalline technology is impressive, Supreme Commander, but we've had centuries to study its quantum structure. Did you really think we wouldn't learn how to speak its language? On the tactical displays, human ships danced through the disabled Drachnid fleet with impossible precision. Where the Drachnids relied on rigid formations and brute force, humanity's vessels moved with fluid grace, their AI battle systems calculating trajectories that seemed to bend space itself. Launch the drone swarms, Vexthor ordered desperately. It was his last tactical reserve. Millions of crystal tech combat drones designed to overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers. The swarms emerged like glittering clouds from the Drachnid ships, but as they approached the human fleet, they suddenly stopped. Then, as one, they turned around. Dr. Patel's voice came through the quantum comm, unable to hide her excitement. The crystal frequency matching worked perfectly. General, we have full control of their drone networks. In that moment, Supreme Commander Vexthor understood the true depth of his civilization's mistake. The humans hadn't just prepared to fight the Eternal Empire. They had systematically dismantled every advantage the Drachnids possessed. You have two choices, General Chen announced to the Drachnid fleet. Surrender now and accept a new reality, where humanity has a seat at the galactic table, or... She paused as the quantum gates began to open around Jupiter, revealing humanity's main battle fleet, or discover exactly how much of our technology we're still keeping in reserve. In the Quantum Command Center, Martine had studied the Drachnid fleet's power signatures. Their remaining ships are powering down weapons, General. They're striking their combat colors. Chen nodded. Signal the quantum suppressors to stand down, but maintain dark energy containment fields, and get me a channel to the Galactic Council. It's time to introduce ourselves to the wider community, properly this time. The battle for Sol System was over, but its implications would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. The age of Drachnid supremacy had ended not with a bang, but with the quiet revelation of their own complacency. Dawn of a new era. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in 10,000 years, representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered to confront an unprecedented situation. the emergence of a species that had completely upended the established order. General Chen stood on the Council's speaking platform, her holographic presence transmitted across thousands of light years. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, some ancient and crystalline like the drachnids, others organic, energy-based, or existing in states of matter humanity was still working to understand. For centuries, Chen began, humanity watched and waited. We intercepted your transmissions, studied your technologies, and saw how the Eternal Empire treated younger civilizations. We made a choice not to announce ourselves, not to join your hierarchy as subordinates, but to prepare, to advance our technology in secret until we could ensure our independence. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests, questions, and expressions of disbelief in 100 different languages. The Drachnid High Chancellor, his scales now a muted gray of humiliation, rose to speak. "You deceived us," he accused. "You played at being primitive while developing weapons that could have destroyed our entire fleet." "No," Chen corrected him. "We showed you exactly what you expected to see. Your own arrogance was our greatest weapon. And as for destroying your fleet," she gestured, and a hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing human ships disabling but not destroying Drachnid vessels. "If we had wanted destruction, none of your ships would have survived. Instead, we chose to demonstrate a better way." From her quantum lab on Earth, Dr. Patel transmitted new data to the Council's systems. "We've prepared a technological package for the Empire's ships affected by our crystal restructuring. The modifications we made actually improved their efficiency by 300%. Consider it a gesture of good faith." The Council's premier, an ancient energy being, pulsed with curiosity. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue your deception?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because the galaxy deserves better than rule through fear and force. The Drachnid Empire's philosophy of strength through conquest is ultimately self-defeating. It stifles innovation, prevents cooperation, and leads to stagnation." She let the word hang in the air, watching the Drachnid representatives flinch. "We're not here to conquer or dominate," she continued. "We're here to offer an alternative. Imagine what we could accomplish if we combined humanity's innovation with Drachnid crystal technology, or merged our quantum understanding with the energy form species' natural abilities." In the Quantum Command Center back on Earth, Martinez monitored the reactions from various civilizations. "The younger species are already reaching out, General. They're interested in technological and cultural exchange programs. Even some of the Drachnid counselors were showing interest, their scales shifting to colors of contemplation rather than anger. Centuries of certainty were being replaced by new possibilities. "The age of conquest is over," Chen declared to the council. "Humanity proposes a new era, one of cooperation, innovation, and mutual respect. Those who wish to join us in this endeavor will find Earth ready to share our knowledge, our technology, and our friendship." She paused, making eye contact with the Drachnid High Chancellor. "But let us be equally clear. Any future attempts to conquer primitive worlds will be met with the full force of human intervention. We've hidden quantum sensors throughout the galaxy. We'll know, and we'll respond." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not only defeated the undefeatable, they had fundamentally changed the rules of galactic civilization. In her private thoughts, General Chen reflected on the long journey that had brought them here. Centuries of patience, of watching Earth's night sky, and preparing in secret, had finally paid off. Humanity had revealed itself not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians of a new future. The stars above Earth shone a little brighter that night, their light reaching a world that had forever changed the galaxy's destiny. The age of deception was over. The age of cooperation had begun.